Hey, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit about why Betty is the right solution to the problem. The problem being, how do we fix all of the world's problems? So let me try to see if I can, under 3 minutes, explain why Betty is the right solution. So when we first started working on solution-centered support, ultimately what was Betty, it was written up in the anatomy of problem analysis that if we're trying to solve complex problems, in other words, where there's not a direct correlation between cause and effect or question and answer, and maybe the solution isn't even known, you have to start off assuming people aren't going to be able to find a solution, even if they bothered to look for one, and they might not even recognize it if they saw it because they don't necessarily know the problem. They may only know the symptom. So we had integrated workflows that would connect what you knew to what you didn't know and would work with you. If you remember Resolved, it would highlight whatever terminologies you put into the system if it was known by the system. So you wouldn't start to solve a problem that had already been solved. And if you found a different way of expressing a problem than the way it had been expressed before, that became known to the system as well. And it formed these object-oriented paths that could be viewed as a whole solution, but ultimately were just random statements that had been organized by the system according to the relevance algorithm. We also added an algorithm for focused collaboration, the collaboration algorithm, that allowed us to create a batting order of resources that would be able to best solve the problem in terms of their availability, their language, their knowledge. So even if one person knew about the cause and one person knew how to triage, or you had people who had to determine which problems to solve first, which ones had the broadest impact or the most severe, then we were able to address complex problems in a very focused way. I don't know if you remember, like when they didn't believe we could solve such complex problems as like on the Himalayas, the nonstop huge computers that were used to run hospitals and emergency centers. And we demonstrated that in an object-oriented, sentence-structured way, we could solve problems in ways that resulted in minutes instead of days of resolution, and maybe even sitting in the wrong person's queues for so long. Number one, structured problem solving. The other one is, why is Betty the right solution? Because it's designed to work in a networked model, not in a hierarchy. And we got that from Douglas Engelbart's Community of Improvement from its bootstrap.org. Remember, he taught us that all of the structures of management, of controlling people and processes in society is basically hierarchical, whether it's the government or corporations, and they serve to create silos, isolate, and categorize stuff. And in that way, we cannot scale our solution. So he created those concentric circles of continuous improvement, where some people do the work, some people improve the method by the work getting done, and some people look for better work to do. And those are the silos that we would be breaking down in a different structure that doesn't keep all of the knowledge at the top of the organization, and then all the problems bubble up from the top. It's cycles of continuous improvement. And the rest of the world right now is in a client server model. But the world now has evolved to a networked model where you need peer-to-peer collaboration. So all of the corporations and governments aren't able to handle this type of complexity. Thirdly, the performance model distributes wealth in ways that support the human spirit. So if you remember Dee Hock, who came to us with the chaotic organizational model and raised the two questions that initiated Betty: why are organizations increasingly unable to manage their affairs? And why are individuals increasingly alienated or now even disenfranchised and even radicalized from the organizations and governments of which they are a part? And basically we're saying we're creating a system that's inequity, that drives inequity and doesn't fulfill people. Everybody wants to be the whom they stand for. Their frame of reference needs to be fulfilled, for better or for worse. You know, whether you're a sinner or a killer or an angel, you want to think about yourself in terms of how you think about yourself, and you need to be able to stand up for what's true for you, and the system needs to recognize how that fits into the overall world. But if everybody can find their path of what's true, yes, the symptom is true, yes, these conditions are true, yes, this evidence has been gathered, yes, this triage is being done, then you feel fulfilled because you're true to yourself and you're true to the things that you align with. So that's the performance model in the Betty system. And what I also learned is that despite how well it works and how proven it is and how simple it might be to implement, it won't happen until people are desperate, because the structures that have caught us and trapped us and kept us from solving these problems are where the power bases are structured, right? That's where people would rather do what they know how to do than do the right thing that they don't know how to do. So Jim Maxim told me that he had not been successful with the support economy model where he had tried it so far, until people reached a point of desperation and they had no alternative. And I feel like we're kind of there. And we've had so many examples of organizational life cycles that have failed. All the companies that back in the day were stuck on that they knew what they were doing and that this solution was not going to solve it for them, they're gone because they weren't able to change their operating system. They got stuck where they are. And I fear that human beings will follow the same life cycle of corporations because we are stuck in the models of interacting and problem solving. That is how we typically do it. So that's it. I can get into a lot more detail, obviously, but I'd rather not take too long with just answering one question and see what other questions it's important to answer. So I welcome your feedback. Thank you.